Okay, so let's start. Thanks for attending today's lesson about SQL. So, well, the lesson is called Databases and SQL. So, we will learn a little bit more about the databases and we will use SQL to work with the database to get data, and also we can create, modify, delete data. So let's start with the introduction. Today's material is here. I will paste that in the in the chat. And today we will see, well, here there is an introduction about the database that we will handle. The database is, well, a toy sample of for database. So I mean the size is quite small. It's about an investigation 100 years ago at William, Frank, and Valentina uh, led expeditions to the pole of inaccessibility in the South Pacific and then onwards to Antarctica. And this investigation was found 2 years ago, and the data was ported to a database. And this is what we will, the database that we will work with. And as you may know, there are several choices to work with the data. You can have the data in a text file that could be in a CSV format that stands for comma separated values. You can work with the spreadsheets, or also you can work with the databases. It's good to be familiar with these three ways of working with the data, because your research in your career you may find these three different choices. Today we will see how to work with a say a proper database SQL using SQL because it's quite handy in terms when we have a large database. It's more efficient than using, for instance, a spreadsheet. Or also there is the option that is mentioned is use text, but you need some sort of software to analyze the data and to perform some queries. So that's why we are learning today SQL. Okay, so let's start. Um, what I will do is, well, okay, I think we have here a little bit more of a theory. Here is explain what we will work with a relational database. Why is called relational? Because that is a relation with the elements that are the tables that we have are related each other. We will see later why is this relation. And we have we are talking about databases, but okay, the database, what is databases? In a database, you have several tables, and each table is has columns and rows. The column is the type of or the type of field of data that you have, and rows is the different entries that you have in a table. To work with the database, we will use SQL. That this is stands for Structured Query Language. SQL is the language that we will use to get data from the database. Also, there is another concept that is a database manager that is the software that we use to. So a database manager could be, today we will learn a little bit more about SQLite that we have on the available. We have commercial databases like Oracle or what is the Microsoft SQL Server, and also we have other databases that are free, that is PostgreSQL or MySQL. Today we are learning SQLite because the advantage of this database is that the database is stored in one file. So, for example, this file could be uploaded to GitHub, for instance, or could be sent by email. So it's the structure is or the way of sharing this database is easier than other databases that you need are composed of several files or are more complex. Okay, other databases out several users are more efficient when they are large. SQLite is good, but when we have a small database, and also when uh, we we don't allow the is different. Normally, it's intended for one user, or because it's you are accessing a file rather than it's like a not a share, like it could be a PostgreSQL or MySQL. So what I will do now is I will share my terminal and we will start learning more about SQL. So do I have? Yeah, is it open? Yes. Okay. Yes, let's share my. As usual, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask in the in the chat. Okay, so if I do ls, I can see that I have my database there that I previously downloaded. And to open that file, what I need to do is I need to execute SQLite 3 and the file survey.db. And I will get something like that. I get well the version of the software, and also we can see the help. For instance, if I type .help, I can see what I can do with the database. Specific commands of SQLite start with dot. We will see some of them soon. So also to exit the database is either dot exit, and you exit the database, or either or dot quit. Okay, let's enter again the database. And the first thing that normally we do when we have when we work with a database is to see the structure. The structure is the tables that we have, and also the data that these tables contain. So these commands are specific for SQLite. To see the tables that we have, we need to type dot tables. And we see in this case that we have a person, site, survey, and visited. So we have these 4 tables. but would be good to see what is the content of each table, or at least what is the structure of the table. So we have the command dot schema that if we execute that, we see this is a SQL syntax that has been used to create these tables. So we see that, for example, the table person, we have an ID that this is in format text. We have a personal and we have a family. I guess that should be a personal name and family name. And these three columns are text. We have other, for example, if we see site, we see the name that is in text format. We see the latitude and longitude, that this is a format real. So it's a floating point number. What else? For instance, in survey we have a that this is an integer. So for this, when we explore other database engines or other, we have more variety of fields, but for SQLite the most important are three: text, integer, and real. So okay, so we know how looks like what the schema is, but I'm interested to see the content of the tables. So now we will write our first SQL query is called. So the what I will do is let's start. So to select the data or to see what the data is in a table, we need to write select. I can here now I can specify either the column names, or if I use star, I will get all columns. So I write select everything from person, for instance. Also remember that all SQL queries should be finished with a semicolon. So I will type that, and if I execute that, I get the output. I get the first column is the ID. We got the personal name and family name. You can see that the format is not very readable, because we see that each record, each row is separated by a vertical bar. For a computer is readable enough, but for a human it could be a little bit tricky. So SQLite has these two commands, that is dot mode column and dot header on. So if I repeat to check the history of what I have executed, I can press the up arrow key. If I execute again, select everything from person, the output is more readable. We can see that we have three columns: ID, personal, family, and the config row of the content of each. You may notice that I use for the we have keywords that are from used to for the SQL for SQL, that like select or from. These keywords, the convention that we will use today, is kind of the most used is to have the keywords in capital letters, and the other, for example, columns or tables in small letters. For instance, well, you may notice that the table I use the first letter is a capital, but it's up to you. You should choose a convention, and also you should be consistent with each. Uh, Write all queries or write the SQL script using the same convention, because it helps a lot read the to read the SQL. Sometimes when you are in a this convention is also when you, for example, if you save the scripts to GitHub, or would you work with sometimes if you are in a hurry, you can type everything in small letters, but just is like less readable. I have seen a database that I worked with a while ago did it the other way around. They use the keywords were small letters, and fields on, sorry, columns on tables were capital letters. Was okay, but I mean, as long as you are consistent with the SQL script, or what the commands that the SQL queries that you write, is good enough. What else? Okay, here, for example, I select three columns, but I could select just the name. For instance, to select personal, family, from person. For example, in case that I forget the semicolon, when I press enter, I see that I have a new line. And you may wonder, okay, how can I? So if you type the semicolon and press enter, I mean, you can solve the issue like that, because the problem was that semicolon was. Why we can use several lines for clarity. In case that the query is very long, uh, we can use several lines. Normally, you do select our personal, family, from person. So you can you can split the query into two lines. For example, this query is quite small, could be written in one line, but there are more complex queries that you may need more lines. So yeah, let's continue. What else? Also, well, it's explained, but it's not that you can repeat. Okay, you can select one column from a person. Also, you can repeat. You can write the same column several times. If that makes sense or not is another, but it's just to let you know that yes, you can. Also, you can use a different order of. I mean, you can do whatever you want to have to get the order that you want. So what we have seen so far is that we are using a relational database, that we have the information is in tables where we have several columns, and we have several rows. The columns are the type of the type that we have of data, like if I have for the person table, we have a family name, personal name, etc. And also we have different entries or rows. And what we have seen is the command select to retrieve data from the database. And the SQL is case insensitive, so you can use capital letters, small letters to write your query. Okay, so let's continue. For instance, if okay, let's see now the data of a survey. So if I do select everything, oops, from survey, I get this is the table. We have a taken person quant, that is the measurement that you can measure radiation, salinity of temperature, and also you have the reading in the last column. So if I'm interested on see which type, because I mentioned 3 types of measurements, but I wonder if there is a fourth one, or maybe there are only 2. Let's see. So away if do select quant from survey. Okay, I get the error that there is not such a table. Is because I wrote this in plural. Okay, so I see that this is the different types of measurements that I have, but it's quite difficult to read because some of them are repeated, and so the way to solve that is having we will using the SQL keyword distinct. Also a feature, if you start typing something and you press a tab key, autocomplete the word in case that you want to like yes write type faster. So if you execute select distinct quant from survey, we see that we have a three different elements. We have a rad, sal, and temp, that is radiation, temperature, and radiation, salinity, and temperature. There is an interesting question in the chat, that is why we don't use the dot when we execute select. This is, yeah, that's the difference is select, for example, this previous sentence on this previous query is a SQL query. So this is a common, or normally are common for all SQL databases, that engines, that SQLite, MySQL, PostgreSQL. When we type dot on the command, these commands are specific for SQLite, so are not SQL syntax. So that's the difference. So if I execute dot help, this is specific for the database engine. But if I execute select, this is a SQL syntax. That's the, yeah, that's a good point. Also, when I use distinct, I can use several columns if I want. So I can do a select distinct taken want from survey. So I get for each taken, I get the measurement that was done. So for example, for 619, I get that the radiation and salinity was measured. Then same for 622 and so on. Also, another feature that we have with SQL that we can order the data that we get. So, for instance, if I in the previous query that I used was select everything, from person, I see that I get all the names, but imagine that I want to order by the names by family name, for instance. So what I can do is select everything from person, order by. So this is another keyword of SQL, order by family. So now you see that we have the same table, but this now is short by a family name. So we have Danforth, Dyer, Lake, Pabodia, yeah. So that's it's also possible to sort by different columns. Imagine that in that case normally you use alphabetic uh, the alphabetic or sort. But imagine that you want to do the other way around. Normally you do that when you execute, when you want to see the maximum or the minimum or sort by a specific measurement, imagine by temperature. But imagine that we want to sort the family names in the opposite from Z to A. So we can do execute the same, select everything from person, order by family. By default is in ascendant sort. So you see that is we have the same output, but could be the other way around. Could be the ascendant. So if I execute that, we see that in the first place is Valentina, and previously was in the last place because it's the short name is with the R. Also, I can do, for instance, we were talking before about the surveys. Select everything from survey. I get this, but I can order by imagine order by taken. Well, actually, it's already order, I think. Well, just in case that imagine that not order, and also we can order by person descendant. This is just an example. So we can do a select everything from survey, order by. I can say taken, ascendant, but well, we don't need to specify that. So if we want, well, let's get rid of this. Then by taken, person, but in this case we want the descendant. So if I execute that, you see that taken is a short ascendant mode, and the person is in the descendant. We can do the other way around if we want to see if that works. So you see that now it's the other way around. It's taken is from greater to smaller. Mm, so that's so what we have learned so far is yeah, order by and distinct. Let me. Okay, let's do a quick exercise, but okay, let's do this to see if that okay, let's do write a query that selects distinct dates from the visited table. Grand. So let's solve this together. Okay, select the distinct dates from the visited table. When you work with a new table, and for example, you have no idea about the column names, or you can either see the schema, and we see that the visited contains ID, site, and dated is the name of the. Or you can, well, because this database is pretty small, but well, this is for to learn about the SQL. We can do select everything from visited and see how the data looks like. So they said that we want the column date or the date, the distinct date that we have. So the query in this case will be select date distinct. Sorry, I forgot from visited. So there I get the distinct dates that I have. Actually, the table doesn't contain duplicated, but for example, you can use a site and you get the three different sites that we have: DR1, DR3, and MSK4. Also, I'm not sure if this is in the documentation, but it's useful when you have a long table like this. Select everything from survey. I mean, in this case, I think we have 10 or 20 rows, but sometimes we can have a million of rows. If you execute that, it will take a long time to execute, and you will get a lot of information. So if you want to just have a look at the first rows, you can do select everything from survey, limit. This is another keyword. Limit 5, for instance. What you do is please give me the first 5 rows, and with that you can have a look at the table without getting all the data. So this is useful when you want to see how the data looks like. Um, Also, it's good when sometimes if the database is huge, and I have seen queries that take because for example this one is quite yes, small, and we get the output the result at the moment. but I have seen some queries that takes hours to execute. So, for example, using this limit, you can. It's also a way to to reduce the output of the query. Okay, so let's continue. Now what we will see is filtering, because we get select everything from survey, and I get this, but imagine that I'm interested in the salinity, for instance. I don't want to to see the radiation or the temperature. So what I can do is I can do select everything from survey, where this is a new keyword that we're learning now, where quant is equal what is the salinity, well, yeah, salinity, for instance, semicolon. And you see that all the measurements that I get are related to the salinity. And in where I can have more in where I can have more filters, because I'm using one, but I can say, for instance, what I can use. I want the salinity measurements that are taken by well, larger than 0.1, for instance. Okay, let's execute that. So I execute select everything from survey where quant is equal salinity, and reading is greater than 0.1. So now I have two filters. I have the salinity filter and also the reading that should be greater than 0.1. So I have this. I have that output. And also, if I want to make this query more complex, because I want to order by person, for instance, I can do that. Order by person. Oops, I deleted this. So now you see that I have everything. I have two filters, and also I order by person. So this is useful when you have that data. You can do some, don't know, with for example, with Python, you can do some plotting or some, or put this into a table for a paper. So it's quite handy to know a little bit about databases and SQL. There is a question in the chat that is interesting. That is, does the order of these command options matter? Yes, it's important to keep the order. For example, for this complex query, you see that this less readable when we have everything in one line. But let's split this one. Select everything from survey where quant is equal sol, and reading is greater than 0.1, order by person. So, for example, in this format, the query is more readable, and the order, it's important. Is you need is that one is select from, where, if you want order by or not. Imagine that, for instance, I select everything where quant SQL sol from a survey. Imagine that I use a different order. They said that there is a syntax error. So here it's important to always keep the order. Normally, queries, the format are select from where. So if you remember that, all of them are the same. If you don't want to filter, you get rid of a where. Well, if you want to order, you use order by. So this is how the query looks like. Okay, also we have what else? Yes, I can use there are other things that we haven't seen about filtering is select everything from survey. Imagine that I'm interested in the, okay, I said the salinity, but I want the radiation as well. So how can I get that? So for that I'll select everything from the table, that is a survey, where, here is the important bit that we are doing the filtering, the quantity is equal rad, or quant is equal sol. Oops. So here I have the measurements are either radiation or salinity. Also in this case could be, if I'm interested, I can do, let's say, a little bit, I can order by quant, and I see I have first I have a radiation and then I have a salinity. This is a way when we have we want like several fields or several elements from the same column, but that is another way that could be more well, elegant. Yeah, that we can use select everything from survey, where quant is in. This is a new keyword. And here I provide a vector with the different values. I can say rad sol. So if I execute that, I get the same output. It are different ways to write a SQL query. So you can choose the one that is more is better with you. Also, there is an interesting query that you can write on. Sometimes you can make a mistake. I mean, it's important when you have a when we filter and we do we have several filters. The order matters. Why? Okay, now I'm interested in get the salinity of two persons. sorry, of two person, measure by two people that are Lake and Row. So okay, let's write this query. Select everything from survey where okay, well, let's interact a little bit. What would you write to filter? I want salinity from the person lake and also from person row. What would you write here in this? If you can type the answer in the chat. So I want the quant should be equal to salinity, salt, and the person should be either lake or row. Yeah, that's a yeah. Thank you. So that's let's work with the. So we said okay. I see where person is equal row and person is equal uh, lake and the measurement quant is equal salinity. Okay, so let's execute that and let's see what yes, that is a syntax error because I forgot to type yeah, my fault. Select everything from survey. I forgot here equal. So for example, if I execute that, I get an empty, I get nothing. Why? Because if that's why we need to be careful when we do the filtering. If I say person equal row and person equal lake, I'm saying that the column should have these two values. So that's not possible. You want to the person should be equal row or the person equal lake. This is a very common mistake that I have done a lot of times. So that's how to solve that. Yes, let's use a person equal row or person equal lake, and let's see how. Select everything from survey where person row or person lake, and the quantity is salinity. Great. Great. So I get the query that I get the results that I want. But you may notice something. If you see the last row, you see that we have a radiation, and I'm interested only in salinity. Why I get that? Because if you see the query that I perform, I'm using I said okay, quantity salinity and person lake, but we say that if the person is equal is row is Valentina uh, is valid, so I can print the. So that's what SQL did. check the person that is row. It's the condition is valid, and yes, it's print. So in this case, there are two ways that to solve this. I can use brackets, and now the or gets is like a gets a preference, and then sorry, the and yes, and gets preference. So is either if quantity should be sol salinity, the measurement should be salinity, and the person could be either row or lake. So now we get what we want. The other way is to use the that what we have learned before, that is in the chat. That actually I will copy and paste from the chat. I can use this option where quantity is equals salinity and person in lake on row. And in that case, for example, this is that's why we learned that, because looks like a more so it's a more elegant way to write. So we see that we get the same result. Also, why I see in the chat that you can use the other way around. You can use where person in lake row and the quantity doesn't matter. In this case the order of the. So yeah, that's what we need to be careful when we use and sometimes when we use and we can get a empty query, empty result. So it's like the filtering is not doing well, or we could be quite permissive and we can get results that we don't want. So this filtering is yes important to do some testing, and that's why, for example, in these cases, are better to use a limit of well, I mean it's good to work with a smaller part of the table, for example, using a limit equal 10, 20, and then increment that limit and see if the results are the are same. Uh, mm, yeah, I see that someone is having trouble with the yeah that with the syntax is either you should use a semicolon, or if doesn't work, mm, are you using the command line? Oh, okay, right. So I see that there is also there is a question that is options that are come before from come after. So yes, I mean the common query format is select from where. So I will say that the most well the mandatory ones are select from. You need to select something, could be all columns or a specific set of columns from, and you specify the table. And then if you want to do filtering, you add where, and if you want to order, you add order by. What else about filtering? Okay, let's see the table visited. So it's select everything from visited. I get that, but imagine that I want to filter. Mm, yes, I want the measurement from 1st of January of 1930. So I can do select everything from yeah, visited, where I can say dated, oops, is greater than, and here I can type the data format, that in this case you see that is a year, month, and day. This is this format is convenient because you can do sorting with the easily with the date. If, for example, if you use day, month, year, first you put the date that starts with one, first, later the date that starts with two. So it's not actually a sort by date, but if you use year, month, day, that works better. Okay, so I want 1330 0101. Using that, I can also filter by date, but because in this case the date is in one column. There are also other examples that you can find that the dates are divided into three different columns. You can find the column year, column month, and column day. What else regarding filtering? Uh, yeah, okay. So let's do the last. Okay, the last thing regarding filtering is we can also do when we get the. Okay, now we will use the table visited. Select everything from visited. I see that we have three different sites. We have DR1, DR3, and MSK4. So I can say uh, give me the yeah, filter by the site that starts with the DR. It's possible. So how we can do that? We use this, well, the previous query, select everything from visited, where site, new keyword, like, and here I use the, how it's called, like the, oh, I forgot the name. The filter that I will use will come the dr, and I use the percentage symbol, and there what I say is please give me the site that contains the first letter should be D, the second R, and the rest I don't care, like wildcard that is and the rest. So if I execute that, you see that for the output I have a DR1, DR3, and the site that is MSK4 is out of that. Out of that. Okay, now came to my. It's kind of a DR. The percentage symbol is. I wanted to say a regular expression. like an easier regular expression. Okay, let's do. Okay, let's do this one. Let's do this exercise. That is similar what we have seen, but that's so the exercise said that the normalized salinity readings are supposed to be between 0 and 1. Write a query that selects all records from survey with the salinity values outside this range. We can see the measurements that have been normalized or not. Yes. Also, please let me know when you are done this query and we can continue. Grand. I see that some people have finished the exercise. Let's solve it together. Okay, the exercise is normalized salinity readings are supposed to be between 0 and 1. Select all records from surveys. Also, is in the you can see that the way that I'm writing queries is incremental, let's say. So normally what I do is I have noticed that I normally do select everything from survey, and then I start like either selecting columns or filtering. So I go like step by step to rather than writing everything at once. So okay, we have that table, and we want all records from survey with salinity values. So we need to filter where quant. You can use either equal salinity, but also you can use where quant is salinity. Also, to see the keyword not, you can say select everything from survey where quant is not salinity. So you get the other measurements, radiation and temperature. Well, let's come back to the select everything from survey where quantity salinity. Okay, outside this range. And reading should be greater than 1 or reading smaller than 0. Let's see if that works. So yeah, that's the output that we have. So the salinity, the reading we get to that is 41 and 22. For example, in this case, we detect that if the salinity readings should be between 0 and 1, these two are not good, so we can exclude them from our research, for instance, to get some measurements. So I check. Yes, we don't have negative values. Well, that in case, for instance, if we have a negative values in salinity, doesn't make sense. So we can filter that value, so get rid of them. Okay, so this is regarding filtering. Now what we will see is how to calculate new values. When we get Imagine that we are in our investigation we detect that the radiation measurements may need to be corrected upward by 5%. You can either I wouldn't recommend to modify the data in the table. What I would recommend is when you get the data, you can fix that. So how to do that? We can do select again everything from survey where quant is equal rad. Okay, so what we detect is that we needed to increase by 5% the readings of the radiation. So what I can do is I can, in this case, I needed to specify columns. For instance, I'm interested in the taken person and reading because I know that the quantity is radiation. Sometimes I include that column just to double check that what I'm doing is right, but can say taken person reading from survey, blah, blah, blah. And I want to get 5% more. So what I can do is I can do 1.05 multiplied by reading. So I can do arithmetic operations in that. So if I do that, I get now the taken person, and I get the reading, the corrected one. Also, if I want to see if also to double check that everything is right, I can do reading and see the difference, the different values with and without the correction. That is a function explained in the documentation that is called round. Round is, you see that for reading, we have two, three, four decimal positions. But what if I just want to have one? What I can do is use the function round is called, and the first argument is the number, I mean the multiplication, and the second element of the second argument of the function is the number of decimal points. So I want one position. So if I execute that, I get that taken person and the reading modified by, I mean, by multiplied by 1.05, and also round by. I think this is not explained in the documentation. If you want to rename that, column, you can do so. You can do you can use as and say imagine fix and rad. And you can get a new name of the column. There is a question that is because we are doing these arithmetic calculations to columns that are either integer or real. But what if I do this in text? Let's see. But actually, I'm. Let's go. This is like easier. I guess that the output will be not the. So yeah, the output in this case is 0 because yes, you use a. Mm, yes, it's not what we want. So when you execute the query and you get something like that, you see, okay, something is wrong. Why? Okay, because I multiply person rather than reading, or for example, it's easier if, well, person is obvious that, but for example, in this case, that the column name is quant, you may think that this quant is the reading rather than the type of reading that you are doing. So, yeah, it's a common mistake that yeah you can do, but when you explore the data, you see the result, you see something is not right here. Yeah, nothing happens. It's yeah, it doesn't give an error because it's actually I'm not sure if when you multiply by no, it's could be, yeah, will be useful to at least a warning saying that you are multiplying by you are doing an arithmetic operation to text, but well, yeah, sometimes it's sometimes software doesn't give the warnings to, but well, it's, normally you detect that uh, when you read the data and you see the at least the first column, so you see that something is wrong in the good thing in this database is that if you have well, this is also why it's recommended. For example, for taken, the ID is a let me check schema. Taken, yeah, taken. You see that this is a integer. If we have a taken text and we introduce rather than a number, we introduce something different. We introduce a name. We will have an error. I mean, the SQL, the database will not detect that error, but we will have that error if we introduce a name instead. So having taken as an integer is good because if we introduce something wrong, the database will complain and say, okay, you are trying to introduce something that is not a number. But yeah, we can see that later when we add we can add data to our tables. Mm, okay, another feature that we can have is we can either do calculations, also we can concatenate the values that we can get. That this is, for example, useful when we have a family name or personal name that we can concatenate the output when we select personal and family from person, we get this. But imagine that I want to get the whole name. I mean, like, yes, these two fields together. I can concatenate them. Also, the concatenation works different depending on the database engine. For SQLite is a double vertical bar. So if you execute that, you get the well name and surname in the same. But for example, in this case, it's together, so it's not exactly what we want. So what we can do is we can concatenate again with a space. So in that case, I can get that name and surname in the same column. Also, what I mentioned before, if we want to change the name of the column, is as full name. Now we can get something like that. Okay, what is here? It is explained. A command that is quite interesting to yes, is the thing is this is done in an exercise, but it's not the sample here to explain that there is a command that is called union. Union is when you have a result of a query, you want to join to the result of two queries. We have mentioned before that, for example, the radiation, we needed to modify the column by 5%. Let me show you the thing was. Okay, I execute that. We have a taken person and a fixed and rad. This is for the, okay, I will include here taken person round fixed rad. I have this, but what if I want the other results? So I want to join select everything from survey where quant is, we can use is not rad. So I want the result of this in the same query. How can I do that? I can use the command union. So I can write the first query, for instance, union, and the second query, that is this one. I'm not sure if this will work because I think, well, let's see. Well, you see that doesn't work because we are using different order for the columns, so we needed to fix that. Okay, this is okay. Select taken person round quantity union. Here we need to also be careful with the order of the columns. So we need a taken person reading quant from survey where quant is not rad. Yes, and this is what I want. What I'm doing now is like I'm mixing the results of 2 queries, but this is useful when I needed to modify a specific element of, for example, I want to modify well, for instance, this is a mistake. This is I should say a fixed reading rather than fixed radiation, because here we have readings for salinity and for temperature. But this is what I want to modify elements of a specific rows rather than all of them. Don't know if that makes sense. Okay, so what I will do is we have seen arithmetic operations of values and union, and now is we are in break time. Before going for a break, because you may notice in the, let me share the 06. Okay, I will stop sharing this and share my, no, I want to share this here. If we go to the course website, I will paste that in the link in the chat. We have the schedule today. We have a half an hour break, and then we have 15 minutes for the surveys. The surveys are quite important to us to improve the course for future runs, and also to is a way of keep track of the impact of the course and the interest that the course may have. If we have courses without any feedback, it's not good for us, because we cannot improve the courses for runs, and we cannot see if demonstrate the impact that we have and for the attendance. So we have what we ask. That's why we give 15 minutes. There are two surveys. I know that it's a little bit now everyone is asking for surveys, but if we click in the first one, the Archer 2 course feedback, here you select the course that you attend, and the only mandatory question is the overall satisfaction. If you want, you can complete the rest, but the other options are optional. The mandatory one is the overall satisfaction. So this could be quick to. And the other one is goes to the carpentries, because as you know, the course is a part of the course material that we are using is from the carpentries. So for them, in order to evaluate the impact of this course and to evaluate if the materials are good enough or what you will if you have learned enough, not is like to monitor also the quality of the course. Is you have this test? Oh, sorry, this that they say that takes around 7 minutes. And yes, so I will encourage you from 11:30 to 11:45. Please fill both surveys. We will appreciate that, and then we will continue with the lesson at 11:45. Anyway, I'll be around to answer questions. I'll be around from 11:30 to quarter to 12 in case that you have any questions about the course or you want me to clarify anything. So thank you, and yes, see you later at 11:30 or 11:45.